Kyle Larson finally gets that long-awaited 2023 win, while William Byron, a race contender, gets spun. Let's talk about a classic race at Richmond. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR in Richmond. We had a great race today, a classic race if you ask me. We had it all. We had a couple of spins, we had a great pit strategy that played a huge role in this race, and we had a driver that we're not unfamiliar with seen in victory lane. Kyle Larson gets his 20th career win in that long-awaited win this season, as he's been close many a times this season, going back to Phoenix and Las Vegas. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this race. We got to start out by talking about the winner, obviously. Kyle Larson played everything right. The final pit stop, was able to get out front of his teammate William Byron, was able to get out front of Denny Hamlin, who later on got a pit road penalty, and Martin Truex Jr., who was racing on used tires, on tires that already had a few laps on them, and you saw the result of that as well. But Kyle Larson was able to finally get that 2023 win in the 7th race of the season. He's shown a lot of speed. Like I said, was coming to the win in Las Vegas, had a late race caution, lost it on pit road, had a good shot to win at Phoenix, lost it to teammate William Byron on the final restart of the race. Finished second at Phoenix after leading a ton of laps at Phoenix. But today, finally got the break he needed, was finally able to come out first on the pit stop, beat everybody on pit road, and win his first race of the 23 season. So congratulations to Kyle Larson. Like I said, that is his 20th career win, his 14th career win with Hendrick Motorsports, and his second Richmond win. So obviously stats are starting to build up for Kyle Larson. You guys know how much I like to talk about stats when we have guys that win a lot. Well, Kyle Larson is definitely becoming one of those that we can go through those stat sheets, because multiple wins now at Richmond and 20 wins on his career. It'll be fun to see how many more he can add to that, which I'm sure he will, seeing the early speed he's been able to have. It'll be interesting to see how many he can add to that just this season alone. William Byron, really fast as well. I'm going to talk about him in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and talk about the main story of this race. Pit road depicted this race in mass. I mean, pit road played a huge role in this race. Pit stops, don't make mistakes on pit road, especially under green flag conditions. We had multiple drivers make mistakes. Capitalize. When are you going to pit? This has become a really strategic racetrack, and that's kind of the way I like it. There was a lot of passing today. You know, Richmond has become a track where fans it was turning into a track that wasn't a fan favorite track, but I think we're going to have some positive reviews on the race today, which is good to see. You know, this is a track I've been to multiple times. I'm glad to see a great race here, and I liked the races last year, but I saw a lot of negative reviews, but I think today's race will get a lot of positive reviews. A lot of strategy on pit road, like I said, but there's a few guys that I do need to point out that did not have good days on pit road that potentially cost them. I'm going to go through the race contenders that I think that had big mess ups on pit road that were having solid days. Denny Hamlin had a shot to go for the win, got 2 pit road penalties, one late in the race, speeding, exiting pit road, took him completely out for the win. Had a opportunity to go for the race win, to take it away from Kyle Larson, to take it away from, at the time, Martin Truex Jr. and other drivers, and wasn't able to even compete because of a pit road speeding penalty. We've talked about this last year. He got a lot of pit road speeding penalties last year. I think he's shortened it down this year. He has not been getting that many. In fact, this might be the first race of the season that he's got a pit road speeding penalty, so it's good that he's helping himself in that situation, is not getting as many as he did a year ago. But once again, another costly speeding penalty, and we just see too much of that on pit. We see too many races lost on pit road by Denny Hamlin. I go back to a few races last year as well, so Denny Hamlin doesn't even get to contend for the win on pit road. Ryan Blaney, it was early in the race, but got a pit road penalty as well. I believe that was for removing equipment from the box. The wedge adjustment tool, I'm not sure what it's called, but where you make a wedge adjustment that was left in the car. So not only did he have to serve his penalty, he had to stop on pit road, take that out, which only takes a little bit, maybe a second or two, but that's a lot of time when you're talking about green flag conditions. Coming back down pit road, ended his day completely. He ended up finishing 26th. Hamlin finishing 20th. Bubba Wallace is another example. He wasn't in contention for the win, but definitely had top 10 speed. Definitely was going to get a top 15, no doubt, especially when you're itching and clawing for every point. Bubba Wallace has had a rough last couple of weeks. He could definitely use the points, and not too sure what happened here. Somebody I don't know if he was, I don't think he was even on the pit crew, falls over the pit wall. Huge mistake by the 2311 team. Whoever that crew member is, definitely a major mistake. He was falling over the pit wall. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. Michael Jordan was there. Definitely a bad look for whoever that was. That was really a very costly mistake. By that crew member to fall over the pit wall like that. So a big penalty, takes Bubba Wallace's day and completely crushes it, finishes 22nd. He was able to come back to 22nd, which was impressive, but definitely could have got a way better finish. That car deserved a way better finish than it got today. So like I said, with those guys, we had those that had bad days. There were guys that capitalized and had good days on pit road, and let's do that by going through the top 10. I mentioned Kyle Larson came out on pit road first at the end, was able to get his second win at Richmond, but Josh Berry, very impressive by him and his crew chief, Tom Gray, who's a fill-in crew chief right now. Obviously, Alan Gustafson for the 9 team is out due to the Hendrick Motorsports penalty we saw. 2 more weeks of that where he will be out. In 2 weeks, he will be back for Alan Gustafson, so it'll be interesting to see when that happens. But Josh Berry, absolutely incredible that he was able to finish second. I know that this is a fast Hendrick Motorsports car, but the way that this is his first few races, what is this? Is his 4th race, 5th race, and then in the next gen car, a 4th race in the next gen car, and for him to be able to get a second place finish after a top 10 just a couple of weeks ago, I think it's extremely impressive. I know they had a great strategy for him. They put him on the front row on the final restart, but for him to even be able to hang on in just his 4th race, there's a lot of drivers that wouldn't be able to do that. Very impressive that he was able to take that number 9 Napa Chevrolet all the way up to second place with the strategy call. By the way, with the fill-in crew chief, a great job by the 9 team. I'm sure Hendrick Motorsports is really proud of that. And I know Alan Gustafson's working hard to make this car fast and work with Josh Berry, but that's really nice to see a kind of a fill-in crew chief and a fill-in driver both get a second place finish. So 1-2 there for Hendrick Motorsports. Very impressive. Ross Chastain was able to claw his way up to 3rd position. He was a top 10 car most of the day, set in 8th or 9th most of the time I looked throughout the entirety of the race, but was able to shoot his way up and get a solid 3rd place finish as he's currently racing for the points lead, the regular season points lead. So definitely be interesting to watch him, although he has not won in quite a while. So it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of break over that hump from finishing top 10, top 5, top 3. Let's see if he can break over that hump and get some more wins. It's been since Talladega last April, almost an entire calendar year, since Ross Chastain has won a NASCAR race. So I want to keep an eye on that. Christopher Bell, once again, I think your top Joe Gibbs Racing driver. I've said this multiple times. He's in the top 10 almost every time I go through my list, and don't be surprised if he gets a few wins. Looks like he could have contended for the win today. Things just didn't work out for him quite at the end, the way the strategy played out, but a strong run for Christopher Bell after a rough week last week, finishing in the top 5, a 4th place finish. Solid day for the number 20 Toyota. Kevin Harvick, once again, competing in his final season, was fast all day. Probably about a 5th place race car for most of the race. I don't think he broke the top 3 all day long. Rode around in 5th all day, was a 5th place car all day, finished in the 5th position. So a solid day for Kevin Harvick nonetheless, as he's having a pretty good season in that Stewart-Haas Racing Ford. And Stewart-Haas Racing had a better day with all drivers as well, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Michael McDowell using some strategy at the end there to force his way up into the 6th position. That was a great strategy call at the end by the 34 crew. A 6th place finish for Michael McDowell is certainly nothing to be ashamed of. That is very impressive by that 34 team. They showed some speed last year. They're showing a little bit of speed this year, but a 6th place finish and a top 10 today is definitely going to help that team moving forward. We'll have to see what they can continue to do. If they can continue to get some more top 10s using strategy or just raw speed, be fun to watch what Michael McDowell can do for the remainder of the season. Joey Logano gets a solid 7th place finish. He was outside the top 10 for most of the day, got a couple of penalties, got caught up in some trouble early on in the race. Kind of took him a long time to recover, so I don't think he had the fastest car, best handling car, but was able to settle for a 7th place finish and get up to a top 10. Definitely a pretty decent day for Joey Logano getting into 7th. Be interesting to see what he can do for the rest of the year. Alex Bowman, who was one of those fast Hendrick cars early on in the race, was in the top 10 most of the day, kind of finished where he should have in the 8th position. Ty Gibbs, another top 10. I believe this is 3 top 10s for Ty Gibbs this season. So Ty Gibbs definitely showing some muscle here that he can compete with these guys. It's just his first full-time season. He's a NASCAR Cup Series rookie. To be getting these top 10s is definitely impressive. And he's not been making a lot of noise. He usually doesn't make a lot of noise unless it's for the win. But he hasn't been racing for the win yet. But definitely getting some solid top 10s, and that number 54 car is definitely, I'd say, pretty impressive. Someone that's kind of snuck under the radar, kind of kind of quietly getting these decent finishes, quietly improving week after week. So it's going to be fun to see what he can continue to do. Brad Keselowski, once again, improving on the speed. If you remember a year ago, really slow, not able to finish in the top 10. The cars just didn't handle good. A solid top 10 day for Brad K. Finishing 10th, and he was a little higher than that at some points of the race. I believe he cracked the top 5 at one point in the race, but about 10th place is where he should have finished. That's where he did, showing some speed for Brad Keselowski, which is exciting to see, as we did not see that at all last year. So continue to watch Brad K the remainder of the season. It would not surprise me at all if Brad Keselowski can break out and start winning races again. It's been a long time since he won a NASCAR race. Another driver, it's been 51 races now since Martin Truex Jr. has got his win. He was in contention today, run out of tires, had to come down pit road. They put some tires with just a few laps on them, some cold tires on the race car, but just didn't have enough speed at all on those older tires. Completely fell back. I believe he restarted on the second row and third. Obviously couldn't get past Kyle Larson or Josh Berry and continued to fall back. He ended up finishing in the 11th position, which is definitely disappointing for him, considering, a top 10 at the worst would be acceptable, but he was going for the win all day long. It's been since 2021 at Richmond in September. I was actually at that race since Martin Truex Jr. has won a race in the NASCAR Cup Series. So another disappointing loss for Martin Truex Jr. When will he break out and get that win is what we've all been wondering. Some cautions at the end didn't help. Just really unfortunate for Martin Truex Jr. Just can't catch a break over the last few seasons, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him break out and get a win in the 19 Toyota whatsoever. Another driver that was really competitive all day long, definitely in contention for the win. That's what was exciting about this race. We had so many drivers that were in contention for the win all day long. Another one of those would definitely be William Byron, who got turned at the end. We can take a look at it here. Ross Chastain tries to go to the inside and has plenty of room to do so. Ross Chastain, no fault there, but I think Christopher Bell, I don't know if he got spooked or if he lost control of the car and jerked up. I don't know, but definitely went up about too much, got into William Byron, spun William Byron around. Obviously, we know Christopher Bell is one of the cleanest racers out there. He's a really respectful race car driver, which has been a point of conversation over the last few seasons, but don't think Christopher Bell did anything wrong there. Maybe just, it's definitely Christopher Bell's fault, but just turned up the racetrack a little bit there. I don't think, we know it wasn't on purpose, and it was a mistake that we rarely see out of Christopher Bell. So that's where I think maybe a little bit of leeway is given. William Byron was obviously upset. Good to see the passion. Love to see drivers upset after a loss. And I think William Byron's going to be really fast this year. I think he's going to come back from this incident and still win some more races. I don't think this is going to slow him down whatsoever. So right now, as we get to the coming to the first quarter, the end of the first quarter mark of the entire NASCAR season, we're starting to see where guys like Kyle Larson, William Byron are starting to show that they're the favorites. The Hendrick camp is really showing some speed right now, and Christopher Bell as well as the top Toyota. Christopher Bell was kind of the only guy today that was trying to spoil that Hendrick Motorsports parade at the front of the field. And then the Chevys the Toyotas came up there and tried to mess with the Chevys a little bit, but it all fell apart at the end. But at the end, it was Kyle Larson's race win. So next week, we get rid of the pavement. We go to Bristol Dirt for Sunday night. Obviously, I'll do a video on that, a race review. Hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Like and subscribe if you like the video. And of course, tune in following the Bristol Dirt next weekend on Sunday night following that race. I think it's going to be exciting. I remember last year it was a really good race. I think it's going to be even better this year with, NASCAR has a lot more knowledge. The teams have a lot more knowledge. Should be a fun race to watch on Sunday night next week. So definitely tune in for that on Easter Sunday. So that's it. That's all there is to talk about. And of course, let's get rowdy.